See you then.
Welcome to the Look Ahead. The following meetings and events are scheduled this coming week. A listing of city meetings with live air and replay times can be found on GTV6's website, www.glendale.tv, and on the bulletin board airing daily on GTV6. Please be aware that some of these meetings may be canceled or postponed after the original posting. To confirm, visit the city's website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us or call the department responsible for that particular meeting. The City Council will hold a special budget study session at 3:30 on Monday, June 13th in City Council chambers, followed by the regular monthly meeting of the Glendale Commission on the Status of Women. If you have questions about either of these meetings, call 818-548-4844. On Tuesday, June 14th, the following meetings take place in City Council chambers. The Glendale Housing Authority and the Glendale Redevelopment Agency meet consecutively beginning at 2:30 p.m., followed by a joint meeting of the Council and the Redevelopment Agency to discuss the agreement with the DreamWorks Animation Campus. The City Council will meet at 6 p.m. Details about the City Council meeting are available at 818-548-4844. For information about housing issues, call 818-548-2060, and the number of the Redevelopment Agency is 818-548-2005. On Wednesday, June 15th, the Glendale Planning Hearing Officer will meet at 9:30 a.m. in room 105 of the Municipal Services Building. Call 818-548-2140 if you have questions. The Community Police Partnership Advisory Committee will meet at noon in the Police Community Room. That contact number is 818-548-4825. The Glendale Planning Commission meets at 5 p.m. in room 105 of the Municipal Services Building. Call 818-548-2140 for details. And finally, on the 15th, the Glendale Police will host a West Command Town Hall meeting from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. in the city's Environmental Management Center, 780 Flower Street. If you have questions, please call 818-548-4818. Also, please note that the Building and Fire Board of Appeals has canceled its monthly meeting that would have normally been held on this date. Design Review Board number 1 will meet on Thursday, June 16th at 5 p.m. in room 105 of the Municipal Services Building. If you have questions, please call 818-548-2140. Please note that the Arts and Culture Commission meeting, which would normally take place on this date, has been moved to Thursday, June 30th. There are no meetings scheduled on Friday, June 17th. Looking ahead to the weekend of the 18th, parents, are you looking for a great idea for your child's party or special event? Community Services and Parks can offer a party on the go, bringing the games and fun right to your location. The basic package includes 2 staff for up to 2 hours and 6 games and activities for up to 12 children. For more details, including other party packages, call 818-548-3220. For those that have loved ones interred at Grandview Cemetery, please note that the cemetery is now open every Sunday from 12 noon to 4 p.m. until further notice. Keep up on late-breaking events in our city by following us on Twitter at www.twitter.com/myglendale. Sign up today. That's it for this time. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
promise you tell me we're through. Now you're back again asking me to see if I can take it. I know that you can make it. Wait for time to pass or to pass the time. Time for you to stay or go. Can't let my feelings show. No, boy, I'm always waiting. Want a page to turn, yeah. For my light to shine, I guess. I'm waiting. Boy, I'm always waiting. For a plane to come. For the show to stop, for you to break my heart. I'm waiting. Feel alive in the lights. I'm just waking up, it's a day or night. Feeling so free, living my dream. But it's nothing to me without you. Oh, get your act together, step up if you can. Everybody says, get a better man. How does it end? When will I know? Can't let my feelings show. I'm always waiting. Want a page to turn. For my light to shine, I got to get my way.
Good evening and welcome to the June 14th, 2011 meeting of the Glendale City Council. Can we have a roll call, please?
Council members Manukian,
Here.
Najarian,
Here.
Quintero,
Here.
Weaver,
Here.
Mayor Friedman.
Here. Tonight's flag salute will be led by Councilmember Najarian.
Everyone will please rise and face the flag. Place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the reading of the invocation. Tonight I ask that we all join in prayer for those who have been displaced by the fires that rage across the state of Arizona. As we here in Glendale are all too familiar with the destruction and devastation brought on by such a force, let us extend our heartfelt wishes for the safety of all those who are still in the burn areas and whose homes, lives, and loved ones may still be in danger. Pray for the brave men and women who are engaged in the fight to control this disaster and subdue the flames. Let us pray for their safety so that they may return unharmed to their families. As the smoke fades and the ashes settle, we pray that the people of Arizona and the entire affected region are granted the strength, understanding, and patience to be able to piece their lives together. We give thanks for that which we have and pray for all to live in peace and prosperity, now and always. Amen.
Thank you. Can we hear your report, please?
The agenda for the June 14, 2011 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, June 9, 2011 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Their presentation and appointments at 3A is the agenda preview for the meetings of June 21, 2011.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, for June 21st, we have no Glendale Housing Authority business agenda items. For the Glendale Redevelopment Agency, we also have no business agenda items. We do have a joint meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Redevelopment Agency to commence at 2:30. Director of Community Development, project design update for the Wilson, Maryland lofts at 111 East Wilson Avenue and 215 North Maryland Avenue. For the City Council meeting to commence at 6 p.m. on June 21st, we have a number of consent items. General Manager of Glendale Water and Power. This is a PVC single-ply roof installation at the Grayson Power Plant. General Manager of GWP, transfer of funds between two GWP electric funds for year-end expenditures. General Manager of GWP, this is regarding the water SCADA system upgrade Phase 2 project in connection with spec number 3442. Under adoption of ordinances, we have an ordinance authorizing the execution of a second amendment to the statutory development agreement and participation agreement by and between the City of Glendale together with the Glendale Redevelopment Agency and DreamWorks Animation. We have two items under action. General Manager of Glendale Water and Power, this is the 2010 Urban Water Management Plan. City Attorney, this is a discussion regarding the city's moratorium on medical marijuana dispensaries. And
initiation of code amendments to, excuse me, ban medical marijuana dispensaries. And we have one item under hearings, Director of Administrative Services Finance, proposed budget of the City of Glendale for fiscal year 2011-2012. That concludes my report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Next item, please.
3B is a presentation of the first place I Love My Neighborhood poster contest winner, Daniela Yoon of Mountain Avenue Elementary.
Okay, and I believe that Jim Reichelt is here from Glendale Clean and Beautiful. Did you want to say a few words before we bring up our first awardee? Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Friedman and council members and staff. My name is Jim Reichelt, and I'm chairman of the Committee for Clean and Beautiful Glendale. The committee is committed to promoting quality neighborhoods and through proven community beautification, neighborhood development, and litter prevention programs. The I Love My Neighborhood poster contest has been in existence for 18 years, and it's a partnership with the Glendale schools and businesses. This year, there were over 9,000 students who participated in this program. This program is one of the committee's all-time favorites because we believe it helps our youngsters to develop and learn neighborhood pride and civic responsibility, beginning at the very young ages, kindergarten, and continuing through elementary school. Tonight, I'm here with a team. Last time I was here, I didn't have anybody behind me. We have some people. So, Madam Mayor, I'd like to invite you to present the poster award or your designee.
I'm happy to come up and present the award.
Okay, thank you. And then I'd wish to introduce you, Mayor Friedman, to Daniela Yoon. Hi, Daniela. She's a 2011 grand prize winner of the 5th grade Mountain Avenue School. And perhaps, is your father here, Danielle? All right, let's bring him up. This is Johan Yoon. And Clara Yoon, their mother, and Kirsten Yoon, is her sister. Please come up and we welcome you.
Like to say a few words? Talk about the contest? Come on, say hi. You don't have to if you don't want to.
Smart girl.
Well, we're very proud of you, and the poster is just beautiful. I know that people will love seeing it all over Glendale. Isn't that exciting for you? Kind of? She said kind of. Well, congratulations again. Can you say anything about your brother's involvement? Hard work? If you want to come up to your microphone. Come on.
I'm a high school teacher at LAUSD, and I think the city involved with the school to do such thing, it's a great thing. And then have my kids involved in something like this, it gives them awareness of what's going on in the city, and then bring into the classroom. I think that's a wonderful thing, and I'm glad that this should.
Congratulations again. Good job. I'm going to send it. Oh, thanks. Marion, do you want to do the next award?
Sure. Is this what the recycling?
Let each of you to give another award. There's 3 more awards. I'd like to go down and...
Okay.
Madam Mayor and Council, at 3C is the presentation of trophies and checks to the Recycling Challenge first, second, and third place winners.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members again. This is a sequel from the I Love My Neighborhood poster contest in the elementary schools to the Junior Ambassadors program in the middle schools. The Junior Ambassadors program was created to provide continuity for students who participated in the I Love My Neighborhood contest in a manner appealing to more mature middle school age students. Students learn about 3 major topics throughout the school year, including litter prevention, recycling, and stormwater pollution. Students are taught leadership skills which they use to influence their peers, family, friends, and relatives to behave in an environmentally responsible manner. The Middle School Recycling Challenge is just one of the tools the students utilize to persuade their peers to be better environmental stewards. And tonight, we have 3 winners, which we'd like you to present. Third place winner is the Wilson Middle School. Accepting the trophy, come on up. Accepting on behalf of Wilson is Arlene Milton, one of the faculty advisors, and one of her students, Adeline, a 6th grader. All right, second place is awarded to Toll Middle School. Accepting on behalf of Toll is Jennifer Winans and one of her students, Lara Canusian, a 6th grade teacher. And in addition to that, I forgot, Toll, on behalf of the city's recycling contractor, Allen Company, I'm happy to present a check on behalf of the Committee for Clean and Beautiful Glendale to the students in the amount of $164.85. And I missed a check for middle school. Arlene, we have a check here also for the Wilson Middle School in the amount of $152.16. That's on behalf of the Allen Company, who is the city's recyclable contractor. Now, number 1, 2011 Junior Ambassador Recycling Challenge champions are Rosemont Middle School for a 4th year in a row. 4th year. Accepting the award is Dr. Cynthia Livingston, and she has a student with her, Adeline, who is also a 6th grader. Pardon me?
This is
Kirsten.
7th grade.
7th grader. Thank you. And in addition, we have a check on behalf of the Committee for Clean and Beautiful Glendale from the Allen Company to present to you in the amount of $446. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Friedman, council members, for allowing the Glendale Clean and Beautiful Committee to participate in these awards so fully and ably earned by the students of Glendale schools.
Thank you, and let me once again congratulate all of the students and all of the participating schools, and I want to say that congratulations goes out to everyone who participated, because all of you made this event great. I also want to thank the sponsors, and particularly the Committee for Clean and Beautiful Glendale, which makes this all possible and which does so much in the city to keep our city beautiful and clean. So thank you so much for coming and for everything that you do. Next item, please.
At 3D is a presentation from Pamela Tom and volunteers of the Chevy Chase Library, including children from Glen Oaks Elementary School.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman and members of the City Council and staff. Tonight's presentation consists of a few remarks by one of our library volunteer committee members, a letter of thanks read to you by one of our younger library patrons, and a presentation of a binder that reflects the wide support in our community for our library and some of the efforts of our volunteers. And then finally, a very short but sweet slideshow.
Mayor Friedman, members of the council, My name is Carol Choi, and on behalf of the community and the volunteer committee, we thank you very much for not reducing services in the library for Glendale. Since you voted not to reduce the library services, we look forward to the now replenishing of our book collection, as well as making the capital improvements that had been on hold. We're very heartened by Mayor Friedman's desire to provide library-supported programming for Chevy Chase, which has not had any for the past year. And in fact, we've already heard that in August we will be having Mr. Valentine's traveling nature show, so we really appreciate that type of effort. We also look forward to the possibility of having classes offered by the community services and parks to complement our current library services. So it's almost the best of both worlds. So again, on behalf of the community and the volunteer committee, thank you very much for your support of the libraries and, of course, specifically Chevy Chase Library.
No, let them finish.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman and members of the City Council. My name is Asia Smoody Tom. I am a fifth grader at Glen Oaks Elementary School in Glendale. I am going to read a thank you letter I wrote myself about not closing down the Chevy Chase Library. Dear Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, I thank you so much for keeping our library open for at least another year, and I hope you can keep it open for many more years. I actually want to work at the library for a summer job when I am older. I have enjoyed the library for many years, especially the library events. My favorite event was the Korean culture event. What I'm trying to say is that I have many fun times at the library, that fun that I've never wanted to be closed. I have read so many good books, and around the same time as the library was being redone, a lot of the books disappeared, and now I'm not able to check out as many books. I heard that the library was promised those books back, but have not, and the books were taken almost out 2 years ago. Again, thank you for not closing the library down, and wish you the best. Sincerely, Asia Smoody Tom.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and good afternoon, Mayor Friedman and members of the City Council. My name is Kristen Lee, and I will be presenting this binder that includes 63 letters written by students from my school, Glen Oaks Elementary, 469 signatures to keep the library open, flyers from some of the programs that the volunteers produced, and articles advertising our events. I hope you take the time to read through this binder and the letters, especially mine. I would like to present this slideshow now. Thank you for keeping our library open.
Mr. Mnuchin?
Yes, I met with, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I live in that area, so the library is important to me as well, and I've met with the Homeowners Association, the Chevy Chase Homeowners Association a couple of weeks ago, and seeing the kids out here today, their concern was that there's been a siphoning of books from the Chevy Chase Library, and I would like to request that the City Council and staff do an appropriation of approximately $25,000 for children's books for the Chevy Chase Library.
I will second the discussion of that item.
You'd like that to come back as part of your budget discussion, or?
It should just be in the budget either way. I know we have the leeway to do that, and
Place the matter on your agenda.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need more books for Chevy Chase, children's books.
Thank you for coming. Next item, please.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I have one thing. For you students from Glen Oaks, my alma mater, class of 50, I've asked to put on the agenda a discussion on a special tax to be put on the ballot, which would be to fund money only for the libraries of Glendale. If the voters pass that, that would mean that you would never have to worry about shortage of books or libraries again. But it'll be up to you and other parents to make sure that the people vote to pass that, if indeed the council puts it onto the agenda. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, next item, please.
Next item at 3 is the appointment of Deborah Dentler to the Glendale Water Power Commission. This was a nomination of Councilmember Mnuchin made on June 7th, 2011.
Now, I do have a card on this, but first I'll go to Mr. Mnuchin if he wants to.
Well, I do want to make a few comments before I nominate Mrs. Dentler, so if that's okay before.
Why don't you make your comments
Okay.
first, and then we'll go to the public, and then we'll have a discussion.
I do want to take a few seconds to talk about Mr. Zavos, actually. He was my nominee last week, and I think very highly of him. And I apologize to him personally, actually, for the vote last week. I did not foresee that, but he is a professor of law who has helped draft important policy and legislative actions for the state and has brought to the attention of this council a potential discrepancy in regard to the state law and our transfer of funds from GWP account, water GWP account, to the general fund. This council decided to eliminate that transfer, and even though you can argue and say that it was an action carried out by this council, I don't believe this action would have occurred had it not been for the persistence of this individual. There's been comments that Mr. Zavos was belligerent and had spoken out of turn during council meetings. I've actually never seen Mr. Zavos belligerent. I've seen him passionate about issues. I know that my nominee this evening will serve with great dedication and commitment to her post and represent my views in a way that will benefit the residents and the stakeholders of this city. But it's important to recognize, as we have with the example of Mr. Zavos, as to why smart, articulate, and dedicated people in our community are reluctant to come forward and speak at council meetings or volunteer for commission positions. I believe we are here to listen to everyone, not just the people we agree with, as I don't agree with Mr. Zavos on a number of occasions. Just as I listen to my colleagues here, to their views, and I agree with them sometimes, I disagree with them, we must extend the same courtesy to the public and the individuals who come and speak before us. We need more individuals, such as Mr. Professor Zavos, to engage and express their expert opinion for the benefit of the community. With that, I nominate Deborah Dentler for the Glendale Water and Power Commission. Thank you.
Second.
Let me go to the public first before we have a vote. I have one card, Mike Mohill.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman, council members. My name is Mike Mohill. I was disappointed when I learned last week council members Nigerian, Weaver, and Mayor Friedman turned down the appointment of concerned citizen Harry Zavos to the Water and Power Commission. Did Mr. Zavos lack the water and electric issues before the city? He lacked the knowledge. Was he ever under investigation for crimes against the people? Or was he turned down because of politics? City activists know Mr. Zavos with his legal background and was instrumental on bringing forward to the public the violation of the previous council interpretation of Proposition 218, the illegal transfer of monies from the GWP to the general fund. Monies this council needs to cover a budget deficit of $18 million and still counting today. Mr. Zavos comes with legal education. In fact, he was a law professor of Emirates.
Mr. Mohill, the city
But he
attorney
retired
has just
several-
notified me that this needs to relate to Ms. Dentler's appointment, not to any past actions.
Well, I'm asking
You
you,
can
to
do that during
reconsider-
oral
I'd like you to
communications.
reconsider Mr. Zavos. It's still part of the issue of the commission.
Actually, it would need to be re-agendized, so it's not a part of this particular motion that's on the table.
Where was
But during
that?
oral communications, you can certainly make this point.
I think oral
And you'll
communi-
have more time.
We're talking about commission appointments.
No, we're
This
talking
is-
about a particular appointment of Deborah Dantler. So your comments need to be relevant to that. But I think we understand the point that you made. You've made your point very well.
Just like you to reconsider this, not to make it political, please. Thank you. Again, my name is Mike Mohill.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Council members Manukian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
that now frees up a position since she was already serving on another commission, right?
Yes, on the Building and Fire Board of Appeals, and that she was my appointee on that commission, so that position will be advertised. I believe it may already be up as being open. And so, I'm sorry?
Start tomorrow.
It will be up tomorrow and open, and I do encourage all members of the public and any member of the public who meets the qualifications of being a registered voter and yada yada to apply. It's an important board, and hopefully we'll get some applications. From what I understand, we have no applications at this time. So I hope that we will have some in the next few weeks.
That board again was the
Building and Fire Board of Appeals.
technical.
It is technical, but also it can be people who have just good judgment and common sense.
Okay.
There's no particular
That's a
requirements that
criteria.
I'm aware of for extra qualifications for that particular board. Okay, I'm going to take one piece of business out of order. I'm going to make a special motion as part of a special announcement right now. I would like to move that the council, acting pursuant to Glendale Article, oh dear, Roman numerals,
24.
24, thank you. That was very embarrassing. Section, see, I should have asked one of the elementary school students. It's been too long. Section 5.2 in Government Code, Section 54957.1A5, hereby appoints Michael J. Garcia as the city attorney for the city of Glendale, said appointment to be effective September 2nd, 2011. The mayor is authorized to execute a contract of employment on behalf of the city.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Sorry, who was the second by?
Mr. Councilmember Manukian.
Yes, council members Manukian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes, and let me just add that this was a unanimous decision by the council after quite a long deliberation today. Mr. Garcia, as many of you know, has been the chief deputy city attorney for quite a while, a number of years now, I believe 6 years, and he's performed that job admirably and proven himself as a very competent city attorney, very qualified, and really done a lot of work on behalf of the city. And so we're very happy to, as soon as our current city attorney vacates the position, to be welcoming him to the executive reins. Mr. Garcia, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Friedman, members of council. Thank you for this wonderful and humbling opportunity
I'm truly honored to be named to succeed Scott as the city attorney for the city of Glendale. Glendale is, in my view, a premier city, and I'm getting a wonderful opportunity to take on a role. I want to thank all the council members, the mayor, Mr. Starbird, and Yasmin Beers, and I especially want to thank Mr. Howard, who gave me a tremendous opportunity to come on board 6 years ago and become his chief assistant. It's no surprise to you that Scott is a well-recognized city attorney, both locally, regionally, statewide, and at the national level, and I'm honored to just have the opportunity to fill his shoes. I would like to, if I have the opportunity, to introduce my beautiful wife, Pilar, who is a outstanding litigator in her own right, and also my son Tomas, who's here. My other son Joaquin could not be here because he had basketball practice. So with that, I want to thank the council for this opportunity. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope that I can do you proud. Thank you.
Was that Joaquin?
Joaquin is our other son, and he's at basketball practice. This is our son Tomas.
Tomas, what do you think of your dad? You want to come up to the microphone and tell us what you think? Did we do the right thing in promoting him?
He looks like a little junior. He looks like a junior city attorney with his coat and tie. And
he does like to get dressed up. Yes.
So she's the litigator?
She is.
We were told about you.
Michael, I want to take this opportunity to thank you and thank your family for your willingness to serve. I think you've done, as the mayor said, an admirable job over the past 6 years. Although you came here when I was on the council, but I've watched you. You've grown tremendously from Burbank to the city of Glendale. I think you have a great mentor. Although we hate to lose Mr. Howard because of his vast knowledge and experience, but I think, and he does have large shoes to fill, but I think no one better than you can fill those shoes. So I want to congratulate you and thank you for your willingness to serve the city of Glendale, and wish you all the best in the coming years. So congratulations.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mnuchin.
I also want to congratulate you, and I feel the same way. We've been here for 6 years. I've observed you from day one. Very organized, very hard worker, deliberative. You'd make a great judge, actually. But anyway, congratulations to you, and poor Joaquin and Tomas aren't going to see that much of you. I know you come in on weekends, but anyway, it'll be worth it in the end. Congratulations to you and your whole family.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Mike. It's been 6 years. You came on to the department when I first came on council, so I think we've sort of grown through this together, and we're looking forward to great years of sage legal advice from you, and congratulations. We'll look forward to working with you for years to come.
Thank you.
Well, I can't add much, Michael. I'm going to have to get used to he sat next to me most of my 15 years, and even though you've sat here some, I'm going to really have to get used to you. We'll be doing a lot of talking, so there's nothing I can add right now except the congratulations, because the time that I've seen you're here, you've shown what you have, and we all agreed on that, so...
To Quintero.
Yeah, I actually wanted to add that we're not the only one that think he's an excellent city attorney. He's a former past president of the L.A. County Association of City Attorneys. So his peers obviously feel the same way about him.
And if I could also just thank Mr. Howard again for all the things he's done, but also for developing a great staff, a great city attorney's office staff. I'd be remiss to neglect that we have great staff that Scott has largely put together, and I'm really honored to be the city attorney and be their boss, and I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you once again.
Thank you, and congratulations again. Before we leave the subject, Mr. Howard.
Actually, Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'm probably going to slip back into my city attorney role and note for the record that you probably passed the gavel when you made that motion.
Yes, you did.
I saw her.
Oh, I did. I passed the gavel. Absolutely.
I really don't need to add anything more than what was said. Michael truly, from the day that he came on board to this day, and certainly to the years beyond, will do a fine job. He's done an excellent job to this date. I think it's a fine decision. You keep mentioning big shoes to fill. I don't believe they're that big at all. I think Michael's well up to the task. He will do a fine job not only with staff, he's well respected by department heads in the city, and I think he will serve this community very well in the years to come. I also want to thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations
Go
again.
to dinner.
Congratulations.
Go to dinner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
City Council and staff comments.
Comments from any of my colleagues? Nobody?
No.
Yes, Mr.
Well, I have a few comments regarding smart meters. I went on actually YouTube to look at some of the discussions regarding smart meters, and what I found was a little disturbing, and I want to just give to the community some of the YouTube videos that I watched. One of them is called The Dark Side of Smart Meters. It's on YouTube. If you Google it, you'll find it. The second one is called Stratford Smart Meter Killing Shrub. It shows a smart meter with greenery around it on the wall, and you can clearly see that the vegetation around the smart meter is brown. That was an interesting video as well. And then there was a study that was done. The second one is called Stratford Smart Meter Killing Shrub. So if you do a Google search on that on YouTube, you'll find it. The third one is a study that was done on not portable phones, not cell phones, but the 2.4 gigahertz phones that are in the homes, and how digital, and the title of the video is Digital Portable Phones and Microwave Radiation on the Electrosensitive. And again, it's on YouTube, and it shows how some individuals, and approximately 35% of the population, is very sensitive to magnetic waves and the microwave radiation. So I wanted to throw that out there. I wanted to actually show it, but I don't have it all set up to show it. So I just wanted to just put that out there, so those who are interested in this subject of smart meters, which we're getting all over the city of Glendale, can look at it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Comments? Well, I have a few comments. Before I go to what I intended to say, I just wanted to throw a little caveat out to Mr. Manukian's statement, and I appreciate him bringing this up and beginning this dialogue, but I would caution people that scientific information is probably gotten best in scientific journals, scientific studies, rather than through YouTube videos, which can be put up by anybody with any agenda, with any background. So I just wanted to, before people scare themselves.
Well, one of them is a scientific study, just FYI.
And we will be having a longer discussion about, our GWP is going to be doing more of a presentation about smart meters, and there is information up on the GWP website with studies, scientific studies, and information about smart meters and how they work. So people that are interested should look at the GWP website and see exactly what we're talking about, what they're dealing with, and what this technology actually entails. So just a few comments of events for the last week that I went to. As some of you know, my policy is that I ask my colleagues to let the public know about events that they attend on behalf of the city, particularly regional events, regional boards and commissions that we might sit on, not only because I believe it's in the public's interest, but also it is the law. That if you attend an event on the public's dime, that you do need to report that back out to the public. So first, this was not on the city's dime, but just might be of interest. Last week, I had the honor of attending the Armenian American Chamber of Commerce's luncheon. It was very nice to be invited to go there and talk to their membership, and we talked about the business assistance and business incentives that the city is offering in our redevelopment areas, being our downtown and our creative corridor, which is the San Fernando corridor. So it was nice to address them because these are groups that many of whom have businesses in these areas and a lot of whom weren't familiar with these programs and didn't know that we offer business assistance and business incentives. So if you're a business that is in one of these redevelopment areas and you're curious about these programs, you can find out about them through the redevelopment agency, the website, the city's website in the redevelopment agency section, or you can just call the Glendale Redevelopment Agency and they can direct you to people that can give you that information. I also had the pleasure of attending the YMCA's 85th year of service to Glendale. They had a celebration where they highlighted what the YMCA has to offer. They had about 100 people in a newly renovated room at the YMCA, and they had demonstrations, performances really, by different groups that enjoy the YMCA, from children's groups to exercise groups to adult dance groups. There was a Tai Chi demonstration, and it was just wonderful to see the passion that the community has for its YMCA and what a great resource it is for the community. I attended the Kiwanis' Flag Day Lunch, also a very well-attended event that was in co-sponsorship with the Chamber of Commerce. The Junior Fire Picnic was also last weekend. This is where fifth graders who show exemplary aptitude for fire safety are chosen to attend this picnic. They write essays, and the ones that have some of the essays were chosen. 3 of the kids that wrote the best essays received bicycles. And a lot of the kids got raffle prizes, and it was a lot of fun. And this is a group of fifth graders who really went out of their way to learn about making themselves safer and their family safer and know what to do in case of an emergency. I also attended the Verdugo Hills Hospital volunteer lunch. Verdugo Hills Hospital is a community-based hospital that is not connected with any outside corporation or medical group. They're just strictly a community hospital, and they really can't function without their volunteers. And they have a tremendous group of volunteers that really keep that hospital running and in business and vital, and the love that they have for that hospital is tremendous. One of the volunteers I wanted to mention in particular is 97 years old and still volunteers countless hours at the hospital and walks every day. And I really think after meeting her that it's that volunteerism and giving back that's kept her so young and so vital through her long years. So it was really an inspiration to see people who have dedicated, the volunteers that were honored, particularly who received awards, had each volunteered over 20,000 hours to the hospital over the past 20 years. So these are people that really, really gave a lot of themselves. And lastly, I wanted to mention one of the boards that I sit on, which is the Metropolitan Water District. We had our meetings today and yesterday. There's nothing really of great importance to Glendale to report back, but there's some interesting things happening in the water world. There's a lawsuit from San Diego against Metropolitan that's very interesting, that will resolve itself one way or the other, and deals with how the rates are structured. Otherwise, it was kind of business as usual at Metropolitan. I am happy to report that there's a lot of water out there coming down the way. The water is going into storage. At this point, we have enough storage to capture the water as it melts, but we should all hope that we don't have anything very unusual happen weather-wise, because what we really don't want is a heat wave that will melt the snowpacks, which in some cases are up to 20 feet high, and that would be water that would be difficult to handle. So let's all hope that we keep this moderate, cool weather as long as possible and not have our 100 degrees until the end of summer. Okay. Thank you. Next item, please.
Under consent items at 5A through C, the following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so before motions are proposed.
I'll move the consent calendar at 5.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Council members Manukian?
Yes.
Najarian? Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Friedman?
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item is oral communications, and this is a portion for 3-minute announcements.
Thank you. Okay, I have 2 cards. If there's anybody else who wants to speak at this portion of oral communications, please turn your cards in now. First card is Barry Allen, to be followed by Rick Lemo.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff. I'm Barry Allen. And the announcement again today is going to be about our weekly meeting at Foxy's this coming Thursday, and we're going to be talking about a number of things, one of which is, do you live in the Glen Oaks Canyon? Is your neighbor a sexual predator? And on June the 23rd, we're going to be talking about the real case for the new recommended fire department changes. Can we afford it? And June the 30th, it's all about utility rates, rate increases in Props 218 and 26. And on July 7th, a topic I heard about just a few minutes ago, on smart meters. Are they right for you, and are they safe? Reservations are a must, and let's see, here's where you can call and or email to make a reservation for Foxy's this Thursday. Thank you. I'm Barry Allen.
Thank you. Rick Lemo, it's my last card.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted you to mark your calendars because two very important dates. In 16 days, we will be wrapping up the 100th anniversary year of the Glendale Chamber of Commerce. And in 16 days and 1 minute, we'll be starting the 101st year of our Glendale Chamber. And to mark those two events, this Friday, the 17th of June, we will be having our annual Glendale Chamber of Commerce Gala, and we're inviting you and all to come. You can go to our brand new updated website at glendale-chamber.com if you'd like to make reservations, or you can just call Judy Kendall, and I'm sure she'll be able to slip in a few more tables. Hope you can join us. I'll be wrapping up my year as Chamber President, and our new Chamber President will begin on July 1st, Jeannie Brewer from Acura of Glendale. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item under action items at 8A is City Manager regarding consideration to adopt a resolution supporting the Bring Our War Dollars Home effort and requesting the U.S. Conference of Mayors to call on Congress to redirect military spending to domestic priorities. 8A1 is a resolution supporting the Bring Our War Dollars Home efforts.
Thank you. Mr. Starbird?
Madam Mayor, this item was requested by the City Council at a previous meeting. Staff has prepared some basic information about the initiative and presents to you a resolution to receive direction from the Council whether or not you want to participate.
Does anybody have any questions for staff before I go to the public? Okay. Roberta Medford?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, viewers. Thank you very much for putting this on the agenda. I'm Roberta Medford from Montrose. The War Dollars Home resolution focuses on the unsustainable cost of the war. But if these wars were free, I would still want them to end. They are not making us more secure. In one case, we entered a war with absolutely no reason, as it turned out. In the case of the war in Afghanistan, our Secretary of Defense recently made his farewell tour of Afghanistan, and at every single stop, his own volunteer troops asked him why, with Osama bin Laden dead and Al-Qaeda down to a few hundred people worldwide, of which maybe 50, probably fewer, are still in Afghanistan, they could not now come home. The spectacle of him giving the same tired excuses and trotting out the strategies that we have used for the past 10 years there broke my heart and made me ashamed for our country. How can we ask our troops to do anything more? 2/3 of the U.S. no longer think that the war in Afghanistan is worth fighting, if it ever was. We have to wonder, is our government a democratic system or not? Our representatives in Congress don't seem to be hearing us. Or is it that they choose to ignore the overwhelming majority of their constituents that are against these wars? So I'm here tonight, and I think there are a few other people in support of this that I won't be speaking. To ask you, Councilman Quintero, Najero, Manukian, Weaver, and Councilwoman Friedman, to please represent us by voting yes to bring the war dollars home. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Medford, for your for bringing this item to us. Is there any discussion? Mr. Weaver?
Yes, I have a few comments. I've seen Miss Medford up at Ocean View in Honolulu on Fridays. However, if I was up there, I'd have been on the other corner with the veterans, since I am one. With all due respect, I cannot vote for this resolution. Throughout the history of man, there have been despots who have cruelly treated their fellow man. Our country was founded on the premise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Throughout our history, we have fought for those freedoms not only for our own country, but for other countries whose people have long suffered. I and my family men have served in World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam for the freedom of all people. Our president has removed over 100,000 soldiers from Iraq and is working to withdraw down our troops in Afghanistan. I feel it is improper for this councilman and city to tell the president what he should do. I believe he knows that it will be up to him and his military commanders when our troops will come home. And it won't be the last time that our troops in history will go overseas again to fight for somebody's freedom, just the way human nature is. So with that, I'll have to respectfully decline to support this.
Any other discussion?
I have some comments. I do think the subject of this is beyond the scope of the City Council. This is different than the Mayors for Peace discussion, which called for nuclear disarmament. This calls on the immediate and complete withdrawal of our troops.
No, it doesn't.
In arenas where I think we have justified cause to be. I think this is rather limited. Now, if we were to amend this and include a condemnation of President Obama's unilateral declaration of war on the Libyan people, a declaration which was illegal and unlawful pursuant to the War Powers Act, which states that only Congress may declare war on another country. If we condemn the acts in the secret war currently underway in Somalia, maybe we're getting somewhere. But I think this is rather, it's a feel-good sort of thing. I see the other cities that are listed here. I'm not sure the residents of Glendale really belong in that group of cities. West Hollywood, Hallandale, Worcester, Mass, some cities in Maine. Certainly it doesn't have a lot of support throughout the mayors across the nation of ours. So this goes a little bit, it's a little vague, it's a little ambiguous, and I would leave the defense of our country and our residents to the experts in charge. So I would not be supporting it either.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that on that list of cities that have co-sponsored this resolution, and by the way, we're not a member of this particular group. All we're doing is telling them that we support their resolution if we were to vote for this, is also Los Angeles, California, Ithaca, New York. There's a lot of cities on here that are perfectly respectable, not that West Hollywood isn't. I would also just add that I want the public to understand what the resolution actually says, so I'm going to read it because I think it's a lot less controversial than people think. It's certainly not in any way disparaging our veterans or our soldiers. I personally think that we can do them the best good by bringing them home as quickly as we can. But here's what the resolution resolves. Section 1. The City of Glendale supports efforts to speed up the ending of these wars and authorizes the mayor to send a letter of support to the sponsoring organization. And so it does not call for an immediate withdrawal. It doesn't give any kind of timetable. It just says that we as a city would like to see efforts to end this war. It doesn't spell out when that would be. It certainly leaves it up to the discretion of those who can make that decision. And Section 2, that the City of Glendale hereby encourages the U.S. Conference of Mayors to adopt a resolution calling on the U.S. Congress to bring these war dollars home to meet vital human needs, promote job creation, rebuild our infrastructure, aid municipal and local governments, and develop a new economy based on renewable and sustainable energy. You know, just this week in the newspaper, it was reported that $9 billion was stolen or lost, just disappeared in Iraq. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of money that over the years during this war has been just misplaced. Can you imagine what $9 billion would do right now in this country? I mean, even just in California, what that would do if it was put into our education system, into other things. And really, at the end of the day, you know, since we're going a little bit afar, but in terms of the war in Iraq, what have we gotten as a nation out of it? I'm not sure. So for me as a mayor, I'm very comfortable signing on to this. I think it may be feel good, but it expresses what I think a lot of people, what a lot of my constituents are thinking, that we're certainly not saying that the war should end now. We have to have, of course, a way of getting out of these countries that doesn't do harm, but that we would like to see this war end at some point in our lifetimes, at some point relatively soon, and we'd like to see those resources spent here at home. So that's my feeling. Mr. Quintero?
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but I am now. Well, you know, I think it's just time for this country to get a grip on reality. And I think we've lost all sense of proportion and all sense of reality. And I say that as a combat veteran of the Vietnam War. I say combat because I spent 13 months in Vietnam. I volunteered to go. I extended my enlistment. I come from a family, a cousin that was in the Chosin Reservoir in Korea. My father served on B-29s. My uncle was with Patton, I believe, from 1937 to 45. So we fought in all the wars and been through all the rehabs and all the rest of it. And I think it's time to kind of put a halt to it. We were attacked on September 11th. There are people in this world that want to attack us again, and we have to go after those people. But the idea of invading country after country and missile after missile and spending tens of billions and probably at this point hundreds of billions of dollars is just getting ridiculous. And it's totally out of proportion. We're the only ones in the world that are really doing it. Our allies in Western Europe aren't really doing it. So it's time to come home and try to build the type of country that other countries are building, including China and so many other Asian countries. I mean, we're just spending all our money. We're spending all of our money on weapons, on design for weapons, everything having to do with so-called defense, and at the same time we have these soaring unemployment rates. It's just, like I keep saying, it's totally out of proportion. This is a small symbolic step. I agree to that, but we'll join other cities that aren't so sophisticated, perhaps. Ithaca, New York, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Athens, Ohio, and Baltimore, Maryland, and it's not that large a group of cities, but hopefully we'll add our name to those list of cities that perhaps are more interested in doing something to rebuild our nation.
I will also support the motion. I think we can use some of that money for children's books here in Chevy Chase Library. So that is, I wish I could allocate $1 million for all the libraries and all the books. I think the number of books that we have seen a decrease in the number of books in the library. So as a non-combat veteran, I would like to make the motion at 8A1.
Do you have a card before we...
Okay.
I'll second it.
Mike Mohill?
Good evening, Mayor Friedman and council members. My name is Mike Mohill. I often do not agree with Councilman Weaver and Mr. Najarian. Tonight I do. I am also a veteran of Vietnam. This organization is called Code Pink. That means the Communist Party, as far as I know. You call it what you like in the peanut gallery.
Please give him the respect that he gave you when you spoke.
I never spoke disrespectful to the people in the rear end.
Thank you, Mr. Mohill.
You're
Please
welcome.
continue.
Thank you. Okay? So, you know, war is never perfect. War is never perfect. You know, Vietnam wasn't perfect, nor was World War II or nor World War I. We're talking about a different enemy today. An enemy that has computers and iPhones and peephones and blueberries and blackberries. I never did that when I was in Vietnam. Just to go ahead and say, let's bring home our troops, save the money, save the dollars, that's a feel-good position. Who doesn't feel good about returning the troops home? I do. I was in Vietnam. I saw blood on the streets of Saigon and Tan Son Nhut. The people who are eager to bring home the troops. That's a no-brainer. But are we here in this room, do we know all the facts? Does the President of the United States, who I do not support, know more about what's going on in Afghanistan, Somalia, Iraq, etc.? Or a Secretary of State? Or Secretary of Defense? They know more than we know, and we appointed them, we elected them. If we don't like what's going on, there's a thing called, as you would all say, there's an election in a year or 2.5 from now, and vote these people out. But to go ahead and say, you know, we're going to do the foreign policy here in Glendale, California, I think it's the wrong message to send to the children of this city. I appreciate your position, Mrs. Friedman, but this is not the right place. The place is at the ballot box for the people who elect. We did not elect 5 people in the city of Glendale to state a foreign policy. Hey, I'm representative of Glendale. Let me tell you, I'm going to be king too, and I'm going to give you my foreign policy of Glendale. Let's be realistic. Let's send this message back where it came from, and let the people who wanted this to be brought up tonight to look at it a second time and have them write letters, I'm sure they're famous of that, and write to their Adam Schiff or all the other local councilmen or congressmen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Herbert Milano is my last card.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman, members of the City Council. My name is Herbert Milano. The attacks on 9/11 was a terrorist attack. It was not a declaration of war. It was an act perpetrated against the United States and its citizens by terrorists. But somehow that attack and the United States' approach to it has been basically to go into other countries to exercise a war against Iraq where it wasn't justified. And it was then followed by a significant amount of contracts with organizations and companies that had no bid contracts and a tremendous amount of losses to the taxpayer. What this resolution appears to say is to encourage the administration to be prudent with regard to the exercise of war and do their due diligence to bring the troops home. There are over 320,000 veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan who are undergoing today significant amount of rehabilitation. I think that we owe it to those veterans and to those who are currently exposing their life to do our utmost to bring them back home. I have a particular problem with the way that the United States has conducted its war, because we, or this country, gave a tax break to the very wealthy precisely at the time that we began to introduce troops into Iraq and more troops into Afghanistan. And I think, even though many people may feel that additional taxation is unjust, I think that to give a tax break to the very wealthy when we're conducting a war is immoral. And I think that we have to do the utmost to make sure that this war is supported fully by everyone, poor and rich. It is not enough that the poor have to give their kids, to basically be out there serving, and then the very wealthy basically skip out. So this is a way of basically righting that wrong. This is a war that should be borne by all of us, just like it was during the Second World War and other wars, where the whole country together, there was a common vision and a common purpose. This war has lacked that. There are individuals who have given their kids, and their husbands and their uncles and their fathers to the war, and yet we have a significant number of people who decided that they were not going to participate financially by not doing or contributing the right amount of their taxes to the actual conduct of the war. I think that this particular resolution conveys a thought of fairness and justice for a lot of individuals who sacrificed so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify, because there are some concerns about what's appropriate, that this is a resolution that's being offered at the Conference of Mayors. This is a group that gets together mayors all around the country to weigh in not only on municipal issues and discuss that, but to also weigh in as a group of elected officials on national issues. That's what they do. So it's not at all unusual for cities to support resolutions that are coming out of this group. So again, this is not just the city of Glendale doing this out of the blue willy-nilly. This is us supporting a resolution that's been offered at the Conference of Mayors, the National Conference of Mayors. So, did you raise your hand, Mr. Zern? Oh, I'm sorry. I saw a hand go up. I'm so used to acknowledging people who raise their hands up on the dais. Sort of like an auction. If you raise your hand at the wrong time, you're it. So anyway, I want to just make that clear. So this is a group that does this as a matter of course. They weigh in on national issues, and we are just supporting something that many cities, including Los Angeles, have already signed on to. And I believe that it's appropriate. I don't think that it's unusual for us to be involved in something that involves this group. I don't think it's wrong for us to weigh in on national issues when it's appropriate. They do affect us as a municipality. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
There was a motion and a second.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Council members Manukian?
Yes.
Najarian?
No.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
No.
Mayor Friedman?
Yes. Mr. Najarian.
Mayor Friedman, since we're delving into foreign affairs, I would like to place on the agenda a resolution urging the United States to stop all foreign aid to the Republic of Turkey and the Republic of Azerbaijan until such time that they recognize the Armenian genocide.
Do we have a second to discuss that?
Yeah, I'm willing to discuss that.
Okay. That will be agendized for a future time. Okay, next item, please.
At 8B is Fire Chief regarding providing contract fire and EMS dispatching services to the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Airport Authority. At B1 is a resolution approving a Verdugo Fire Communications Service Agreement with the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Airport Authority.
Thank you. Mr. Starbird.
Madam Mayor, we'd like to take this item off calendar.
Thank you. We're going to remove this item from the calendar. Next item, please.
8C is Director of Human Resources regarding establishment of classification titles and compensation for employees of the City of Glendale. C1 is a resolution establishing classification titles and compensation GMA and GMA exempt. C2 is resolution establishing classification titles and compensation IBEW.
Okay, Mr. Doyle.
Madam Mayor, members of the Council, this item is the establishment of classifications under two categories, first being the GMA category and the second being IBEW. In the GMA, we are adding one classification to the classification and compensation resolution. This is a Police Communications and Technology Administrator, and this is to replace an existing sworn police lieutenant position. The position is going to be civilianized from this point on, and we expect to hire in a short period of time.
This was part of the budget issue as well, wasn't it?
Yes, it was one part of the police department's budget savings. It actually results in about $124,000 annual savings, if I recall correctly.
Yes. And the second group is with our class and comp resolution relating to the IBEW. That's the newest bargaining unit here at the City of Glendale. And earlier this year, a group of employees from the GCEA have petitioned to become affiliated with the IBEW. As a result, we had some classifications that were exclusive to the GWP yard that would fall under IBEW, which we're now trying to break out and give them essentially a different title than the existing classification that they currently have. We've designated those new titles with the word utility in front of them. So we now have 3 new classifications: utility equipment operator 1, utility equipment operator 2, and utility maintenance worker. These classifications are simply title changes for those currently now represented for IBEW. It involves no pay increases or anything like that at this point. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Are there any questions? Okay, I do have a card. Herbert Milano.
Mayor Friedman, members of the City Council, and staff, my name is Herbert Milano. I am in support of this particular ordinance because it allows the city to have some substantial savings as you civilianize these positions now being held by sworn officers. I am assuming that part of the reason why there is a savings is that the rate of the pension obligations and benefits of sworn personnel is high today and about to increase significantly in the next few years. And I want to address that particular concept, that the city should be looking at many other potential positions, especially those that have to do with communicating with children or displaying trucks for social events, and all the kinds of activities that are now being performed by sworn fire or police that could fairly easily be provided by others who do not carry such a significant financial burden on the city. I believe during the budget presentations we found out that close to for every dollar in salaries, there's approximately 60 cents of pension and benefits being given to sworn fire and police. And even though I do support the concept of having and providing for adequate and fair pay for fire and police, there comes a time when we can no longer continue to sustain a significant burden of guaranteeing CalPERS returns on investments. We're guaranteeing at 7.75%. And if there is fraud and misuse of those funds, the cities wind up paying for it because you guarantee it. And I think that this particular example, when you move someone from a sworn position to a civilian position, it shows significantly the amount of savings that the city can have. And it is my hope that the City Council in the future will be very careful in its MOUs to continue to support the type of benefits that eventually will sink the city's finances as they are doing now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, can both items be taken at once? Okay.
Yes.
We have a motion?
Move 8C 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Council members Manukian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes. We are going to move the next item down below, item 9A, which should be a quick item. Can you read it into the record,
Certainly.
please?
At 9A, under hearings, 9A is Director of Public Works regarding vacation of the remaining portion of the Orange Street within the Americana Ave brand, formerly the Town Center.
Time's up.
I'll read faster. All right. Town Center project bounded on the south by Colorado Street and on the north by Crusoe Avenue, private street in Glendale. Vacation case number 167B. At 9A1 is a resolution ordering a public street vacation. At 9A2 is a resolution adopting plan number 12-226.
Does anybody need any additional information?
It's a public
Let me
hearing.
open the public hearing. Okay, I do have a card. Margaret Hammond.
Public hearing open.
I opened it.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, staff, and audience. My name is Margaret Hammond. Again, a subject that I have been talking about for a long time, and it's like blowing in the wind, as they say. But here we are, Mr. Caruso, getting more free property since the city is vacating Orange Street and handing it over to him. And I'm sure I repeat myself again and again. The subject of this particular thing happening with Orange Street and Harvard Street was the subject of a lawsuit that I and 14 or 15 of my friends were subjected to by Mr. Caruso, because we said that this was exactly what was going to happen. And here we are doing it again, giving away our streets, our property, our assets to a man that just keeps on taking and taking. When the auto dealers wanted to do this, I was against it and I fought it, and we did not do it. And thank God we didn't. Our city would be a heck of a mess with the streets that would have been shut off, that would have been off-brand, would have been Windsor, offhand, I can't remember, Elk Street, all those streets would have been closed down and handed over to the dealers. And it turned out those properties that were going to be given to them were worth millions and millions of dollars. And when enough people stood up, talked about it, and said, no, if you want more property, buy your own property. You're not taking our property. But here we are again, giving it to Mr. Caruso. I don't know. Why don't we start maybe at the north end now and give him whatever else he wants up there? It's just unbelievable that we keep doing this. But I know it's, again, blowing in the wind. I guess I'm just not ever going to be able to stop feeling resentment about the fact that we pay $3.5 million a year on the $40 million that we went in debt for to buy the properties over there, and then turned around and gave them all to Mr. Caruso for free, including our park for $1 a year that he has control over, and which I have said in the past. I was in there and was told I couldn't walk across the green park by paid, whatever his cops, you call them. So I don't know where somebody goes to get justice or get hurt or anything. So I know it'll continue to go on. I really don't know what else you can give them at this point. Hand them over the Galleria. I bet you would if you had a chance. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a card from Rick Caruso.
Well, I do want to ask Mr. Caruso, why did you not let Margaret Hammond walk across the park, Mr. Caruso?
He wasn't there.
Let me in if you weren't there. I would have. I love never asked me to any of your parties.
Well, that sounds like an open invitation to ask you to a private party, Margaret. You and me. I don't know what the circumstance why Margaret couldn't walk across the lawn. It may be that the lawn was just relayed, as you know, at the Americana to keep that lawn pristine, and the amount of use it gets, the amount of people that enjoy it. We actually put new lawn down about every 3 or 4 months. So once the new lawn goes down, we keep people off of it for a few days till it takes hold. So. And just for the record, that is a public park. It is a public park, open to the public. And no cost to the city, by the way, to maintain it. The city owns the park.
City does, not you.
No, but we do maintain the park at 100% of our cost.
Right. Who owns the parking structure?
The land on the parking structure, that's owned by the city also.
That's owned by the city too. Anything else we own? We didn't give everything to you, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Any other questions
Yes.
for Mr. Caruso? Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion?
Yes.
I'm going to close the public hearing.
Move 9A, 1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Council members Manukian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Friedman?
Yes. Okay, next item.
Returning back to the action items, at 8D is City Attorney regarding discussion of a proposed ordinance to restrict or prohibit the sale of or transfer of all dogs and cats by a retail pet store in the City of Glendale to address issues involving puppy mills. D1 is a motion providing direction to staff.
Who are we going to for staff report on this? Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council.
Is our cat and dog expert on this matter.
Far from it, but a number of concerned members of the community are, and there have been inquiries made on a number of occasions and requests by members of the community, ultimately reaching the ears of the council, to have the council discuss the issue of puppy mills and kitten factories, as they're so called, and ways the city may engage their local authority to, in some fashion, regulate the supply and demand for puppies or dogs from puppy mills and cats from kitten factories. Those phrases generally are used to reflect the notion that whether they be dogs or cats come from breeders who are less concerned about animal welfare and more concerned about profit. Many of them are located out of state, and many of them provide business over the internet. Cities recently have been, let me take a step back. There are a number of laws that regulate breeders, so-called puppy mills and kitten factories. Essentially, many of those laws have been determined to be ineffective in addressing some of the animal welfare concerns that exist at these mills and factories. Federal law, for example, does regulate breeders. It regulates so-called puppy mills, but largely goes unenforced. There's a number of loopholes in federal law which essentially make it difficult, if not impossible, to apply its provisions to all breeders and those that might raise puppies and kittens in an atmosphere or on premises that are less concerned with animal welfare. There's a number of state laws that also regulate breeders and the conditions under which puppies and kittens in these breeding factories, if you will, are kept. However, those deal with larger breeders. They deal with specific provisions, or they have specific provisions that deal with the number of animals sold by litter or by total number. There are no state laws at this time that actually deal with specifically the outlawing and what I'll call stringent regulation of these puppy mills and kitten factories. There has been some legislation both at the federal and state level that have been proposed as recently as March of this year. New federal legislation, which is now, I believe, the third attempt to try to regulate puppy mills on a national level. It's been introduced by Congress. That is going to wind its way through the process, and we'll see where that ends up. At the state level, there was recently legislation that was advanced through the legislature, only to be vetoed by Governor Schwarzenegger, that would have regulated dog and cat commercial breeders, as they're called. Recently, the County of Los Angeles in March adopted legislation, but again, that does not target what I'll call the demand side of the issue. It is regulating breeders, requiring them to microchip animals, requiring them to meet certain minimum standards for not only licensure but also for keeping animals in sanitary conditions, and stacking of cages, wireless bottom of cages, other similar regulations to regulate the breeders and the care of those animals while they're in a breeder's custody. What some cities have done, West Hollywood, South Lake Tahoe being two are the most notables, and other cities are considering, including potentially Glendale, is a regulation at the end of the factory tunnel, and that would be a strict regulation or ban on the retail sales of puppies or kittens to essentially try to, from that side, shut down or diminish these breeders who will care, as they say, more about profit than animal welfare by essentially cutting off the demand. It would also encourage, if the council were to consider it, the adoption of animals from shelters, which would limit the number of animals that have to be euthanized at shelters and hopefully begin to address the overpopulation of animals that are kept in those shelters. The City of Los Angeles just last week directed their Department of Animal Services to draft an ordinance to ban puppy mills to ban the retail sales of dogs and cats in the City of Los Angeles. That will take a number of months to draft and get back before their City Council. This matter is here before you to discuss and provide direction to the City Attorney's staff to draft such an ordinance. Any such ordinance, I should point out, that is, if we're directed to draft same, would include an amortization clause which would allow those establishments that actually sell dogs and cats, generally kittens and puppies, from retail establishments a reasonable period of time to continue in business until they have to comply with the law. And that's generally in terms of years, 3 to 5 years. That's not uncommon, and in fact, the cities that do have these ordinances, you do find a reasonable amortization period. There are two such establishments that we're aware of through initial work by the Planning Department in reviewing zoning use certificates. Both have been notified of this meeting and the discussion of this issue. One of them has responded and noted that they would watch the discussion on television. Certainly, if the council gives us direction to draft an ordinance to ban retail sales of dogs and cats, we would redouble our efforts to ensure that we've notified all establishments that sell dogs and cats at the retail level. And we'll do as much checking as we can and certainly notify the 2 establishments we're aware of. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Suparna Jain. She is a lawyer voluntarily providing services to our offices for no cost. So we get tremendous benefit, and she provided tremendous assistance on the research and drafting of this report. With that, if you have any questions, staff will be seeking direction on whether to proceed with the drafting of an ordinance to ban the retail sales of dogs and cats from retail establishments.
Before I go to questions from the dais, I just want to make it clear to the public that tonight is really for council direction and for a discussion. There will not be an ordinance adopted tonight.
Correct.
So with that, are there any questions? I have one question. I think I know the answer. I just want to clarify this. Now, we have a pet store in Kenneth Village. It's a wonderful pet store that does adoptions, that fosters adoptions. Is that considered a retail sale? Because those, I don't know whether the adoptions, how that's handled administratively by that store.
From the knowledge that I have of that establishment's operations, the answer would be no, would not be covered by an ordinance like this. I understand that most of their adoptions, if not all, come through the Humane Society, if maybe Glendale, maybe Pasadena, maybe others, but not from breeders.
So that would not be considered a retail sale?
No, it would not be. And as I understand it, and we'll do some more checking to confirm this, but as I understand their operation, they do not sell dogs or cats from breeders. They do not sell them at the retail level. They work through the Humane Societies.
So this would affect retail stores, but I assume it doesn't affect if somebody was to order a dog themselves from a breeder?
It would not. That may be under another, either one of 2 state laws, one of the Polanco laws, as we call them, or possibly, if it were in the county of Los Angeles, it might be addressed by the county ordinance that regulates breeders. But no, it would not be a result. We would not be able to regulate the direct sale, for example, over the internet to somebody, or private party purchase.
Mr. Quintero.
Same question. How about the pet store up in Montrose?
The Montrose Pet Store is one that we have notified. I believe that's Anderson's. We did notify them. They're going to be watching it on television. Currently, again, as I understand their business, they do sell animals at the retail level. They could...
Okay, we can't have comments from the audience.
That's why I noted, as I understand it, we can certainly do more research. It would have, as contemplated, the ordinance would ban the sale of dogs and cats at the retail level from as a commercial establishment. And again, we can certainly look at defining if they come from breeders. It gets a little difficult to begin to enforce, though, as you begin to try to define a particular type of breeder in particular, because we just don't have enough information here at the local level to determine if a breeder in Wyoming or Kansas, for example, is properly caring for animals. And hence the need for a complete ban on the retail sale, regardless of whether the animal comes from a particular state, it comes from Los Angeles County or anywhere else.
Mr. Manukian?
When reading the discussion that was presented to the council, it talks about puppy mills and retail sales. Is this discussion about outlawing puppy mills or retail sales?
The latter. We cannot, as a local agency, outlaw. First of all, to my knowledge, we have no breeders, as the term is generally defined under federal or state law in this city. You find them in areas where they have large expanses of space, acreage, for example. Los Angeles County has a few, Wyoming, Kansas, other states, where they essentially there's no, in some circumstances, there's no time between when a female, we use a dog as an example.
I understand the concept of puppy mills.
So they're kept in inhumane conditions and treated inhumanely.
Is there any way to ban retail establishments selling animals that have been purchased or gotten from puppy mills or kitten factories?
The reason the cities are moving toward the outright ban to address this is because of the difficulty in trying to, one, define that and get your arms around where what I'll call a breeder that does treat and keep animals in a humane fashion versus breeders that do not. It's a huge enforcement problem. We would not know, for example, if a breeder from Kansas is a breeder that follows animal welfare procedures as outlined either by...
So there are no ratings for...
Not that I'm aware of, no. And as I indicated, the federal regulations apply to wholesale sales. There's a number of loopholes, and the United States Department of Agriculture, which has jurisdiction over that, it finds it very difficult to enforce it. It would be equally as difficult for us to enforce it. We wouldn't be able to ascertain whether someone in another state is a good or a poor breeder. Hence the sort of, I hate to call it the all or nothing approach, but the approach to ban them at the local level, because we're just not going to be able to determine it.
Other questions before I go to the public? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. Is this a public hearing?
It is not.
The one time that I open the public hearing. Okay. Elizabeth Orick, followed by Renee Karabetian.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman and members of the council and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Elizabeth Orick. I am the National Manager for Puppy Mill Initiatives for Best Friends Animal Society, and Best Friends wholeheartedly supports this proposal. Puppy mills are an enormous problem in this country. These mills, which supply nearly 100% of U.S. pet stores, are cruel and inhumane factories in which profit and maximum productivity take priority over the welfare of the animals. And let me just say, in response to Mr. Howard's comments, responsible breeders do not sell to pet stores. Only puppy mills, high-volume commercial breeders, sell to pet stores. It's mathematically the only way to supply the hundreds of pet stores in this country. Because the goal is to make a profit, mill owners must cut corners in order to keep expenses low and profits high. So for the unsuspecting consumer, this frequently results in the purchase of a pet facing an array of immediate veterinary problems or harboring genetic diseases that surface down the line. This creates a financial burden on the consumer and results in many of these animals being surrendered to our already overcrowded shelters. It makes no sense to continue manufacturing dogs and cats when so many are being killed for lack of space. Public education has been effective, but until communities take the initiative to limit the supply of animals being imported from these mostly out-of-state commercial facilities, there could be no hope of preventing these unnecessary deaths. Pet stores that obtain their animals from commercial breeding facilities are not an asset to the community. In fact, they could be part of the solution rather than the problem, simply by either stopping pet sales altogether and focusing on other profitable ancillary components such as grooming, daycare, and pet supplies, or by changing to a business model that offers products, services, and space for animal rescue organizations to adopt out animals from their stores. Best Friends has partnered with several of the pet stores that have made that transition, including Glendale's very own Pet Rush, and you're going to hear from the owner of that store next. And we have found this humane model to be both viable and embraced by the communities in which the stores are located. Thus, a ban on the retail sale of pets would not preclude pet stores from staying in business and would in fact alleviate a significant burden on shelters and taxpayers by increasing pet adoptions and lowering euthanasia in our shelters. Best Friends applauds the City of Glendale for taking a compassionate, common-sense initiative to addressing the puppy mill crisis in our own community and setting a positive example for the rest of the country to follow, and we support you in your efforts. Thank you very much for your consideration of this important motion.
Thank you. Can we hold the applause? It's going to take, we have a lot of cards, and we understand there's a lot of support here, but I appreciate not having applause after each speaker. Thank you. Renee Karapetian, followed by Dale Bartlett.
Good afternoon, Mayor Freeman, Councilman, City staff. My name is Renee Karapetian. I'm the owner of Pet Rush in Glendale, proud owner. And I'm a living proof of that this ordinance will work in Glendale. There's only one store that still sells puppies. And I was the other store a little over a year ago. But with the help of Best Friends and the community, I've switched to adoption, pet adoption, and I'm a living proof that not only improved my business, but actually my popularity as well. As you can see, I got an opportunity to be on TV on Channel 11 every 6 weeks on a Good Day LA and presenting my dogs and my business. I've had many people from the community come into my business when before they would not even set foot in my business, mainly because I was selling puppies. They did not care where these puppies came from, but they were right. They were from puppy mills. And there's no other way for a pet store to get puppies these days other than puppy mills. No reputable breeder will sell their dogs for $100, $200 to a pet store for them to sell $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 to the public. They will not do that. They can sell on their own, on internet and every other means. So I'm a living proof. I'm here to say we need this ordinance. In the past year that I've been doing this, I've been able to adopt out over 150 dogs, and I've get my dogs from the shelters, high kill shelters, Riverside, and other shelters. I can't remember right now all of them, and found them homes, and a lot of them went to Glendale, Glendale residents. So this is something that I think should be done, and we definitely do need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dale Bartlett, followed by Melissa Maroff.
Mayor Friedman, members of the council and staff, thanks for your time. My name is Dale Bartlett. I'm with the Humane Society of the United States. We're the nation's largest animal protection organization, and we're supportive of the ordinance as well. We know that dogs sold in pet stores come from puppy mills. I've been to these places. They're despicable, and you see dogs that have never, ever set foot off of wire cages. You put them on grass, they don't know what to do. And it's horrifying. So just from that basis alone, I think this is worth pursuing. But it's also a consumer protection measure because you have unwitting consumers who go to the pet store. You know, if Johnny's been good, he makes the honor roll, you want to get a puppy, and you happen to be near a pet store, that's where you go as a member of the public. And these unwitting consumers don't know what they're getting themselves into. A lot of times they end up with animals who are very unhealthy, genetic issues. The vet bills can mount, and obviously the heartbreak factor when you think you're doing something good by buying a puppy and you end up seeing them sick and suffering and often euthanized. Even broader than that, it can be a public health concern. Wyoming recently had its largest ever outbreak of distemper. That outbreak of distemper was traced to a kennel, a puppy mill in Kansas, where 1,200 dogs had to be euthanized because of the conditions on that puppy mill. If you're confused about where the dogs are coming from, they're coming from brokers like the Hunt Corporation, some of these companies based in Missouri, based in Kansas, who just truck dogs across the country, truck puppies across the country. They keep the mothers in cages and breed them and breed them and breed them, and they truck dogs across the country to pet shops. I think that Glendale as a community can do better than that, and thank you for considering this motion.
Thank you. Melissa Maroff, followed by Ed Buck.
Thank you. It's a short speech, but I'm going to read from paper. From doing outreach and speaking with pet store shoppers in Sherman Oaks, I can say with certainty I've never met anyone in favor of puppy mills. They were either uneducated about them or believed the store owners who told them the dogs they sell were acquired from quality, private, or home breeders. The very nature of large-scale commercial breeding in order to supply pet stores, in which profit is the bottom line, makes for neither humane nor quality breeding. This bill will protect both consumers and animals and be of no harm to ethical breeders. It will also serve to educate those still in the dark about the pet store puppy kitten mill connection, as well as deter substandard breeders who will not stop unless a ban is in place. We owe it to the animals that we've domesticated, who thrive on human interaction and socialization, not to condemn them to unnatural lives in cages as breeding machines. Commercial breeding of family pets has no place in a humane society. And to those who would say a ban of this nature violates their constitutional rights, I say animal abuse and compounding pet overpopulation is not a right, nor in the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed Buck, followed by Sarah Wolk.
I just broke that. How about
You didn't break it. You can now walk around and talk if you want.
Okay. Ed Buck from the city of West Hollywood, but like from the good part of the city of West Hollywood. I'm also a director of social compassion and legislation. Social compassion and legislation was the state sponsor of the puppy mill bill that was referred to, AB 241, that was, in his infinite wisdom, vetoed by, what's his name, Schwartzy. The issue before you is really good public policy. As we advance this issue in West Hollywood, we examine some of the questions, some of the discussions that you're having. How can we get the good housekeeping seal of approval? How can we know that the dogs that are being sold in these stores are coming from puppy mills? We would like to say we want to promote our local breeders. We want to promote our local businesses and do away with those foreign corporations. And by the way, they're not just in the Midwest. We're talking Korea and China. Some of these dogs are coming in from. That's why we went for the ban. The onus on the municipality was too great. As Mr. Howard said, you don't have the resources to go back to Kansas and check every facility. And so the outright ban does the job because, as Ms. Orrick said, no responsible breeder will sell their dog in a pet store. This is great public policy. When we passed it in West Hollywood, not only did we have 100% support, we had more letters of support than any item that had been advanced to date. The ordinance has been in effect for well over a year. It's working well, and evidence of how well it's working is the fact that, in addition to Los Angeles, San Francisco Animal Services Commission has advanced it, and we're getting inquiries from all over the country. This is an idea whose time has come. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Wolk, followed by Patty Schenker.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Tonight I'm speaking as a Glendale resident, a Glendale business owner, and a member of the Glendale Chamber of Commerce, as well as an active member of the Los Angeles County Rescue Community. I've witnessed firsthand the overwhelming number of homeless cats and dogs in our community. Not only is it unnecessary to support the production of additional animals, but it's inhumane considering the number of animals that are euthanized in our shelters on a daily basis, and of course the treatment in the puppy mills and kitten factories. Additionally, the pet overpopulation problem puts strains on our city resources to figure out how to handle all the animals, and uses many volunteer hours that could otherwise be used for other issues. This type of ordinance would take a great step towards helping to decrease the pet overpopulation problem, and that's why I support it, and I urge you to as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty Schenker, followed by Christy Schilling. And that's my last card. If anybody else wishes to speak, the time to turn in the card is now.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman and City Council members. My name is Patty Schenker. I live in Pacific Palisades and am a real estate investor in Los Angeles and an animal rescuer. The City of Glendale has been given a wonderful opportunity today to save lives and money in introducing this humane piece to address the problem of commercial breeding facilities, known as puppy mills. The time has come, and cities and states throughout our country are passing laws to regulate this inhumane and heartbreaking mass production of pets. Here are some of the reasons to support this, and I am only talking about the dogs. First, American puppy mills produce an estimated 4 million puppies a year. This number is almost equal to the number of dogs that are euthanized in shelters every year when they are not adopted. Secondly, we have already discussed the intolerable conditions for and the careless breeding of these dogs, which creates health problems and heartache for the people who own them. That's why puppy lemon laws have been created in many states. Thirdly, the USDA, which oversees these facilities, admits to a deficient and problematic record in the inspection of dog breeding facilities. The truth is these facilities are always found in violation of the USDA's requirements, and no city should be supporting them. Last but most important to know here, virtually all puppies sold in pet stores come from puppy mill breeders. I just participated in 2 legal puppy mill raids in Tennessee and Texas, and I have to say these places need to be banned. The small dogs were found living in their own waste, some stuck to their cages due to their matted fur, and a few living among the dead ones. Let me remind you that this has nothing to do with licensed breeders. This is about commercial breeding facilities where our pets are literally seen as money-making machines and not the best friends they really are. I urge your support of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Christy Schilling is my last card on this item.
Good evening, Council. I appreciate you listening to me. I had no intentions of speaking, so forgive my nervousness. I am a Glendale resident and a volunteer, and I have been for the past 11 years. And I am the community member that first approached Renee to ask him to go humane, and I ask the same of you tonight to pass this ordinance. As a representative of my community and the neighbors, we're in full support of this ordinance. I love this city and I want it to be considered humane and progressive. And there's a video clip of the party that we had at Renee's at Pet Rush for his humanity and adopting out shelter animals instead of selling puppy mill animals. So watch, enjoy, and please pass the motion.
I'm Ara Najarian. I'm currently the mayor of the city of Glendale, and I'm here in Kenneth Village celebrating the announcement of Pet Rush and Renee Carpethian, the owner, that they are going to be the first rescue-only pet store in Glendale.
On behalf of the City of Glendale, I am so happy to be here today and to announce Pet Rush being the only, hopefully not for long, but the only rescue-only pet store in the City of Glendale. And everyone needs to know.
Renee is really interesting because he is a convert. He used to sell dogs that came from puppy mills. He did not realize that. He had been told that he was purchasing dogs from responsible breeders, and then he realized that he was in fact supporting puppy mills in the Midwest, and he didn't want to do that anymore. So he embraced this concept that Best Friends has been promoting for the last couple of years, whereby pet store owners bring in rescued animals from the shelters or from 501c3 groups to offer adoptable animals as opposed to purchasing animals from irresponsible breeders or backyard breeders or puppy mills. And it's fantastic because these dogs are just as valuable as the dogs that come from traditional pet stores, so it's a win-win for everybody. You can save a life, save a lot of money, and support this terrific humane model.
Hi, my name is Renee Carpethian. I'm the owner of Pet Rush here in Glendale, and every pet store in the United States should be rescuing dogs instead of selling puppies from puppy mills.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Orrick. I'm the National Campaign Manager for Best Friends Animal Society's Puppies Aren't Products campaign. We are trying to encourage adoption and discourage people from supporting the puppy mill industry. Please check out our website, www.bestfriends.org or puppiesaren'tproducts.com. Thank you so much.
I'm going to close the public hearing. Before I go to the dais for comments, I just want to really commend Renee Carpethian. I've known him for a number of years. I'm a frequent Kenneth Village shopper. I live down the road. And the whole community noticed when he changed the model of his pet store and started being an adopt-only store, or a rescue-only store, I should say. And it was really a wonderful example to set. And, I'm sure it was a difficult decision for him. It was a very brave decision to come out, and I think it was brave of him to come here tonight and say that his dogs had come from puppy mills previously. And I really commend him for coming forward and taking this issue on. So thank you, Renee, for being here. And with that, Mr. Weaver.
Yeah, Renee's the one that turned me on to it also. You see things, you go through life and you don't stop to think of some things that are occurring around you that are not right. I mean, I used to see the pets for adopted down in the Galleria. They look so cute and all that. But I never stopped to think of where they were coming from or whatever. It wasn't until Renee started talking about it and where his dogs were now coming from that I realized we probably have an issue. And that's why I asked for this to be agendized to talk about. Every day in my council chambers, because I'm in here virtually every day, I have a TV that's turned to Animal Planet. Every day. And I've seen the puppy mills, the dogs standing on the wire mesh, staying in their own doo-doo that's rotted, stuck to their bodies. I've seen the worst, and I've seen them cured. I've seen them been brought out. I've seen animals that have been injured and everything. It's a miracle what the humane societies across America have done with animals that have suffered like this. You know, I did Weaver's Doghouse for 4 years, and I adopted out over 1,000 dogs and cats from Glendale Humane Society. And the exposure on TV so greatly helped. We still do it today. And it's the exposure. If we can get more of the animals in the shelters dispersed out into stores like Renee's, where people can see them, they're going to get adopted. Excuse me. I know I had some over the years on my show. I thought this animal will never be adopted. And they were. And when I saw them a year or two later, how they had changed. Same thing with my current Sammy out of Pasadena Humane, skin and bones and hairless. Now, gosh, a total transformation. But I'll tell you one thing I know. Nobody will ever be able to convince me different. You adopt an animal, dog, out of a humane society, you nurse them back to health, and you take care of them, they know. They absolutely know the difference. And they appreciate and love you for what you've done for them. I can't explain it, but I know it. And my Sammy now follows me around everywhere, by my side, without a leash. Didn't train him. Somebody had. 3 of his big teeth, incisors, broken off. He had been abused. Boy, he knows love now. He's always with me. So I totally believe in doing this where we can't handle the national issue, but we can certainly help the shelters get it out into stores like Renee's. You see the ads in the paper occasionally. I think Glendale Humane had it in a couple of days ago, 2 full pages of animals in their shelters. It's not the same as bringing it out into the community, into different stores, or onto TV, like you're doing, Renee, on Channel 11. That exposure, people call. You've seen these animals sometimes that have gone through tragedy, and they get on the news, the local, the national news. What happens? Hundreds of people call and want to adopt that one animal. And there's countless thousands out there that are in the same boat and waiting to be adopted. So I sure hope that we can push this through, start helping some more animals that need a good home and some loving. Thank you.
Yes, I don't know Renee, but he's certainly getting a lot of exposure with some of these videos. I have to admit that I am on the fence. I was on the fence on this issue, and my main concern was, are we hurting local businesses? And there aren't that many. There's a couple of local businesses, and for me to pass an ordinance that only addresses 1 or 2 businesses is not efficient. However, looking at the video and seeing Renee come up and describe his circumstances, giving an alternative to getting puppies from out of state, and if it's actually true that all pet stores purchase their puppies from puppy mills, I certainly would not support that. And considering that there is an alternative to the business, to the only remaining business in Glendale, to change the model of their business plan, I think I would support this. I think it's a good step to take. I think businesses should do it voluntarily, just like he has done. But if it takes an ordinance to do it, I'm willing to support it. So.
I also support the ordinance, but I want to start by saying I'm shocked that Mr. Weaver would take up this issue. It has national significance, and it should be up to our elected officials in Washington to take care of it, and the Department of, would it be Agriculture, I believe? But I just had a need to throw that in.
Thank you, Mr. Quintero.
Anyway, no, I do support it, and I've seen the television, exposés from time to time, and it's just ridiculous. To call them mills to me, sort of sanitizes what's taking place in this industry. And I did learn something tonight that I didn't know, that like everything else, they're actually breeding puppies in China and Korea and importing them into the United States. That's just beyond comprehension. But I think this will work. It's somewhat symbolic, although practical at the same time. But I think we've taken a step in the right direction. And I don't know what Anderson's Pet Store does, to tell you the truth. I assume we'll be hearing from the owners in the future, but I know it's a very well-run organization and business that's been there for many years. The principals volunteer with the Glendale Humane Society. Yeah, she's one of the directors of the Glendale Humane Society, so I'm sure everything they do is fine. And Mr. Karapetian does more than just work on his pet store and on his business. In fact, he's the ace volunteer for that business association. So he's to be commended for everything that he does with his life.
Durian?
I guess if my comments weren't clear enough on the video, I do fully support this, and I would encourage staff to bring us the best ordinance, most workable, most enforceable, easy to understand ordinance possible, so we can discuss it, vote on it, and join the great city of West Hollywood in
I support it as well, and it's really a shame that we even need ordinances like this, that people for money will exploit animals and helpless creatures, and will create cruelty. Hopefully this in its small way will help discourage that as more and more cities adopt ordinances like this around the country. And we certainly do have a lot of wonderful animals in the pound. We adopted our wonderful dog Jacko, or my husband did. German Shepherd was adopted from the rescue. We lost him last year at the age of 17. And I know that Mr. Weaver likes his dog, but Jacko was the greatest dog that ever lived. No, it's true. It's true. And we now have two formerly feral cats. And if someone can tell me how to get my number 2 feral cat to love me,
Forget it.
She's still very wild.
Forget it.
But she rules the house as well, so she's quite happy. But there are a lot of amazing animals out there, and hopefully more of the pet stores will adopt this model, because it sounds like it works as a business model, which I was very, glad to hear. Very glad to hear. And I want to thank all of you for coming today. I know how passionate you are about this subject, and how much volunteering you do, and how difficult it is to foster these rescues all the time. And you do it because you are tender souls, and you have a lot of compassion for these animals, and unfortunately they need it. So thank you for being here tonight, for bringing this forward to us, and I also will support this. So it seems at this point that you have a unanimous decision to move forward with this. Still have the ordinance. We'll still have to come back to us. We'll have to review the ordinance. There may be further testimony from business owners. I don't know who else will come forward, so it's not over yet. But for me, my mind, I would have to hear something really astounding for me to change my mind. So
I'll move 8D1 with one comment. Mr. Howard has 2 dogs. He just lost a dear dog, 14 years, just last week. It was extremely rough on him, like it's been on me with my other 6 dogs. So, from the Humane Society. So, a lot of dog lovers around. So, that's my motion, 8D1.
Second. Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Council members: Manukian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Friedman.
Yes. Thank you. Next item, please.
And Mayor?
Yes.
Before we go to the next item, I was waiting to get this information. I was negligent. Last week, a former councilwoman, Mary Ann Plumley, her husband died last week. I'd like to join his memory. He was just short of his 87th birthday, born in Fort Dodge, Iowa. Was in the Navy during World War II, a destroyer escort in the Atlantic. He came back here and he started as a meter reader in the city of Los Angeles Water and Power, and he eventually rose to director of the commercial division. And while working there, he met his future wife, Mary Ann Plumley, who served on the council 4 years, 4 kids, lived all the years up in Glendale. And after Water and Power, he quit and became, after 30 years, and started a new career in real estate, and rose to the level of executive director of the Glendale Association of Realtors, and was also a 32-year member of the Northwest Glendale Lions Club. Our heart goes out to Mary Ann and her great loss. I'd like to join in memory of him.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, next item, please.
Next item is a 5-minute portion of oral communication. Discussion is limited. Time is not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. And City Manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for an investigation and a report.
Thank you. My first card is Mike Mohill, be followed by Delma Kirsch.
It works great on here.
Good evening, Mayor Friedman and council members. Democracy takes a step backward in Glendale. My name is Mike Mohill. Last Tuesday night, recently re-elected for the 4th time, Glendale City Councilman Dave Weaver made 3 suggestions, in my opinion, were nothing less than shortchanging democracy. Suggestion number 1, another special tax, but this time on the libraries. Because according to Councilman Weaver, the city needs to raise $18 million to cover the budget deficit, to which he contributed every time he agreed to a salary and benefit increase for city workers. But why stop at libraries, Councilman Weaver? Why not have paid toilets throughout the city too? Suggestion number 2. Required 2 council members to agree to a public records request. Presently, any council person can request public records without seeking a second council member's approval. Mr. Weaver states city staff is overburdened and has limited resources. This action by Mr. Weaver is an affront to Councilman Rafi Manukian. Request for public records and his fiduciary responsibility to the public. Limiting city council members' usage of the Public Records Act is in direct conflict with California Constitution. I thought Mr. Weaver was elected councilman from Glendale and not the entire legislative body of the state of California. Suggestion number 3. Glendale's a big city, and therefore, according to Mr. Weaver, the position of city clerk and city treasurer should in the future be appointed by council members and no longer elected by the voters. Let's change the city charter, says Mr. Weaver. No legislative body, that's the city council, can also control the executive body, the city clerk and the city treasurer. But on the contrary, big cities often have their city attorney also elected by the voters to maintain a separation of power. Presently, our city attorney is beholden to the city council and not the public. The handling of ADI, Advanced Development and Investment Company, and former Councilman John Dramer's condo inquiries have made the city attorney today an unwilling co-conspirator. Councilman Weaver continues to be the champion of the city unions. In the last election, Councilman Dave Weaver stated the amount of money he had received from the unions was very, very little. But in the last election, Glendale Police Officers Association Political Action Committee, PAC, spent $8,612 on a mailer for Mr. Weaver, and an additional $3,000 on political polling, according to his campaign 460 form. Why did an established PAC not report their money to the city clerk's office until after the April 5 election date. Additionally, Mr. Weaver is on record to limit oral communication to 2 to 3 minutes and not the present 5 minutes if he is chosen mayor by the other council members. Just another attempt by Mr. Weaver to silence the city watchdogs and protect the city unions. The question the public should be asking tonight is Mr. Weaver working for the stakeholders of the city or the unions? Who wants to control the influence of council critics' demand for transparency and accountability of its public employees and council members? Thank you. My name is Mike Mohill.
Thank you. Delma Kirsch, followed by Hazel Catmull.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Delma Kirch. I live at 1656 Hasbeth Lane. I am here tonight to thank you for keeping the Casa Verdugo library open. I don't have an elaborate presentation like our friends from Chevy Chase did, but I can assure you that our group and our community sincerely appreciate you for making that decision. Before we learned of your decision, I had prepared this document. I tried to email it to you, but it was too large for your inbox. So I thought I should come and personally deliver it, and thank you for your efforts. This document contains 670 signatures that we collected during the week that this was in discussion. So I thought you would appreciate having all these signatures supporting your decision. And we sincerely hope that this library and all our city libraries will stay open for a long time to come. Thank you so much for your effort in working with us and keeping our libraries open.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, can this petition and the other one become part of the public record?
Actually, it's part of the public record when somebody submits it. In terms of public record, we generally think public record in terms of a public hearing. Anytime somebody submits a petition up here for the council review, it becomes part of a quote-unquote record. The city clerk will keep it on file somewhere.
Okay, with this one, there was only one copy, the one from Chevy Chase, so I'll give that to the...
And I think the record needs to be clear also that Councilmember Najarian did not take part in any discussions relative to Casa Verdugo because of a conflict. He appropriately absented himself, abstained, and absented himself. The council made the discussion to keep Casa Verdugo open in his absence, and at which time he was able to come and participate in the rest of the budgetary discussions.
Thank you.
I want to thank Ms. Kurtz for sitting here the past few hours.
Okay, Hazel Catmull, followed by Harry Zavos.
Good evening, Mayor, City Councilors, and staff. Mr. Najarian, congratulations on finishing your pool. It must be very happy for you. And thank you again for balking at Mr. Weaver's green mean suggestion. We knew you weren't going to win. And San Fernando Road looks wonderful. Plus, the cyclists are very happy with you. Mr. Manukian, I believe that you attended Mr. Allen's post night. It's refreshing to know that a council person is interested in the dissidents as well as the sycophants. And so we appreciate that very much. While we're on the subject of Mr. Allen, he endlessly showed videos of a condominium in various stages of construction. I've never understood why the council didn't find an unbiased contractor to go and examine it. But it's all too late now, and the city is really responsible for all of this, unfortunately. We'd like to thank Mr. Manukin for all his questions. We love them because knowledge is power. And it's necessary that the people know what you're talking about instead of looking and saying what's happening. Thank you. And also we appreciate Mr. Milano, Ms. Hammond, Mr. Zavos, and for all their questions. They're always here. And also Mr. Allen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is Harry Zavos still here? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you behind Ms. Hammond's hat. Harry Zavos, followed by Herbert Milano.
My name is Harry Zavos. I'm a citizen of Glendale. And what brings me here is because I've been incorrectly quoted as saying that the provision, operation, and maintenance of the fire hydrant system using water fees is not illegal. That's simply not true. In the last few weeks, I've made 3 points before the council and in the Glendale News Press about the use of GWP resources in general and water works fees in particular for general fund purposes. First, and the one that's intended to set the record straight, my position is that any water fees used for purposes other than providing water to the ratepayers violates Article 13D of the state constitution as amended by Proposition 28. I'm going to read one of the provisions from that, which is part of the 2-page handout I gave you. It appears on page 1 and is underlined. As we all know, Proposition 218 deals with fees for property-related services. The Supreme Court has indicated that water fees fit that definition. Revenues derived from the fee or charge shall not be used for any purpose other than that for which the fee or charge was imposed. That fee and charge is imposed on ratepayers in order to provide them water. Using it for the provision, operation, and maintenance of the fire hydrant system does not provide them one drop of water and is consequently violative of this section. I'm not going to take time now, but I would also recommend to you that you read the underlined portion of Article 13D of the Constitution that appears on page 2. So far from saying that use of these fees for the fire hydrant system is illegal, in point of fact, my position is just the opposite. Second, in a May letter published by the Glendale News Press, after they had edited it, I raised the question of disguised transfers of utility resources to the general fund. I can best make that point by simply reading from that letter. Electric fees are not prohibited by Proposition 218. So the proposed 2011-2012 budget includes a $21 million transfer of such fees. One might assume that the $20 million is the total utility fees used for general fund purposes. However, there are additional disguised GWP resource transfers that are used to subsidize general city services. For example, the waterworks is not reimbursed for providing, operating, and maintaining the fire hydrant system. Water fees are not used to provide water to the ratepayers, rather they are used to subsidize a general fund obligation. The electrical works, without reimbursement, operates the city's streetlights and provides electricity for the city's traffic signals. Electric fees which pay for these services do nothing to provide electricity to those who pay them. Rather, they are used to pay for general fund city services. And 2/3 of the GWP Perkins building provides space for other city agencies rent-free, while the utility must lease commercial space elsewhere to carry on its services. This is not an exhaustive list of such disguised transfers. It merely illustrates how opaque, how hidden such transfers are. Only the city staff, at the City Council's direction, can provide an exhaustive list with the dollar values it represents. And only such a list can unmask disguised transfers and provide transparencies. I see my time is up. I can't get to the third point, but I want to make it clear it has been never my opinion that use of these fees for the fire hydrant system is legal. My position is that it violates the Constitution.
Thank you. Herbert Milano, followed by Margaret Hammond.
Honorable Mayor Friedman, members of the City Council and City staff, my name is Herbert Milano. I want to address to you an issue for which we generally create government and support a democracy. Those are issues concerning fairness and equity. As you have been discussing the budget during the past few weeks, it's come to me the realization that there is a significant amount of disparity with regard to how the budget is construed, prepared, and basically considered during these budget study sessions. I think that today is a very appropriate time to bring this thing because just a few minutes ago you demonstrated conscientiousness and empathy with us regard to animals. I would like for you to extend the same type of consideration to those residents whose income and situation in life is also very precarious. Earlier today, I showed how data collected by the Glendale Adventist Medical Center shows that in zip code 91205, the average the median family income, not the median per capita income, but family income is around $36,000 a year. That the level of poverty in 91205 is very high. And a few weeks ago, I also presented to you how many of these families, thousands of them, have received a 48-hour notice of impending electricity cutoff. The issue that I have before you is the unfairness part of this whole budget and what has transpired. It has transpired because of actions that was taken by city councils in the past. In 1994, general employees were allowed to retire at the age of 55 as opposed to 60 before getting the full benefits. In 2001, fire and police were given the ability to do that full retirement at age 50 instead of age 55. And then there were significant increases to their pension benefits that we guarantee for basically the length of their retirement life, which is often and not unusual to be 30 years. What we have seen now is a combination of all those actions that the year-over-year increases for many city departments with regard to pensions and benefits have been incredibly high. From 2010 to 2011, those 2 years, we have, for community services and parks, 16% increase in pension, 5% increase in benefits. For public works, 26% in pension, 28% in benefits. For management services, 28% increase in pensions, 35% increase in benefits. On the Glendale Water and Power Water Utility, 43% increase in pensions, 14% in benefits. That's on slide number 30. For police, in slide number 11, shows 32% in PERS, 39% increase in benefits, and so on down the line. So while the communities have had a decrease in median family income since the year 2000 to 2010, according to the census, since the population of Glendale has remained fairly flat, as we have a significant increase in the number of people unemployed and underemployed, as the taxpayer is being more and more constrained, those actions taken by previous councils are impacting the budget so severely that you're forced to both increase the fees, increase the water rates, or increase the electricity rates, significantly impacting families who have less and less income. And that is the issue of unfairness that I have been bringing to you for a long time. If you are a Republican and you're concerned about budgets and constraining it, I guess you have an obligation to look at this thing and say, we need to stop this trend that is so significantly impacting it. If you're a Democrat with conscientiousness and empathy towards those families who are hard-pressed to meet this need, then it is my suggestion that as you give instructions to your negotiators during these discussions on the future salaries and pensions, that we need to restore equity and fairness to this whole process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Margaret Hammond, followed by Jorge Vasquez.
Good evening again, Madam Mayor, members of the council, staff, and audience. My name is Margaret Hammond. First off, the phone number for the free bulky item pickup is 818-548-3916. Please call and get that junk picked up that you have dumped out on the right-of-way and so forth around town. It's very unsightly and makes our city go downhill visually. The Clean and Beautiful Committee is a city committee, and we will be presenting Summer Night on the Plaza, July the 28th from 6 to 9. Free parking, wonderful photo competition, and the use of the plaza. We've been given that for several years, a beautiful plaza at night, and it's a wonderful event. The money from that event goes to pay for things such as the poster contest, which costs a lot of money because we provide 12,000 children with the paper to do the posters, and many other things that we do in the city. Again, in that committee also, we were the ones that brought before you and kept pushing for the ordinances on the shopping cart pickup, the smoking ordinance, and we have the lowest graffiti that we have ever had, because when we started, it was really bad with graffiti. We've got a lot of awards from Keep America Beautiful, and I know when I go to the conventions that I've gone to, that they all want to know, how did you get those smoking ordinance? How do you get the shopping cart? Places like Riverside still do not have, or Bakersfield, and they're awed by the fact that we have done this to improve our quality of life in the city. And your committee is not young people. A lot of us are old, and we've lost a couple of our people, unfortunately, and hoping that we're going to get some more dedicated people to be on there. Now, you saw the schools tonight, Jim Reichelt, and the children were benefiting from programs instituted by the Clean and Beautiful Committee. And these programs benefit the whole city. And also, they teach young people how to be good citizens. And in the future, we are going to benefit from that, because it will help to reduce crime, perhaps, and trashing of the city and so forth, and overall help our city in a social way to have a good quality of life. So I really feel that it's a wonderful program, and we do work hard at it. We meet once a month. But again, please support our Night on the Plaza, which is July the 28th. And as I say, the money goes for a good cause. It's nonprofit, goes all back to the city. And I'm glad that Greenworks got their renewal of their agreement, especially since they have given us whatever we need in the way to get the river walk cleared, get it on the road. And of course, I do want to say congratulations to Mr. Garcia. He was a very quiet, shy young man, and under his good teacher and mentor, Mr. Howard, he's really blossomed, and I think you're very smart to keep him here in the city. He's a really good asset. So I do think, I want to say, we've done one good thing, and sometimes we get a lot of bad things happening, but I think overall, we have to look at all the good things in our city that we can enjoy as we drive around town, and I drive around all day long. This is my fourth meeting today from different groups, and of course I'm back and forth, up and down and cross. So I really see life in the city. And I can't sit at home and watch TV. There's too many interesting things and too many things for me to get into. So I really enjoy my contact with everybody in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jorge Vasquez, and then Sharon Weissman is my last card.
Honorable Mayor and honorable members of the City Council, I actually have to apologize. I would have been here earlier with my friends from the Chevy Chase Library, but I work at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and we just had a major launch last week, so got a little bit delayed. I'm here to support the Chevy Chase Library. Let me just kind of give you a personal perspective. About 2 months ago, I was invited by one of the staff members of that library, specifically because we were launching a new satellite, to speak on that subject at the library. I didn't even know that library existed. I had driven up Chevy Chase Drive. Probably I've been a resident of California for 27 years. Just quickly, I want to say how impressed I was with the staff, how professional they were. And I just want to briefly say, in a time when we are on information overload, and I truly believe that places like the Chevy Chase Library are a treasure, a place where you can actually get away from that in such a beautiful and scenic setting. I have told the staff members there, and I will repeat it here among the honorable members of the Glendale City Council and the Madam Mayor, if that library was closer to my residence in Pasadena, I think I would be much more productive. And in a day when in the scientific world, publishing is everything, I would just love to have a facility like that. So I thank you for the support you've given that library, and I recommend that. I think it's one of the best kept secrets in Glendale. I just hope that maybe that's not the best way to move forward. Maybe it shouldn't be one of the best kept secrets anymore. So thank you for your support, and I hope it continues. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon Weissman's my last card.
Good evening. I'm Sharon Weissman from far north Glendale, speaking as individual tonight. I hadn't intended to speak, but I had to correct some misinformation that came out in comments on an earlier item. Code Pink isn't related to the Communist Party at all. It's an anti-war group primarily made up of women, and they took their name from the Homeland Security color code alert system, red, orange alert, Code Pink. So please don't put any credence into the remarks that this is something called Code Pink has anything to do with the Communist Party. And also want to clarify that, of course, support for the troops and veterans does not at all equal support for the wars we're going on to. Those are two completely separate things. And I too want to thank you for not closing one of my favorite libraries, and that's Casa Verdugo Library, where I've tutored for the last several years, I can't remember when, 4 or 5, with the adult literacy program. And just to let you know how beneficial some of these programs are that you might not be aware of, my student, I've been working with one adult literacy student who wanted to improve her English after living in the United States for many, many years and raising her family. Her primary language that she grew up with is Hindi. She's from India. And several times over the years, she's participated in the California State Library's Writer-to-Writer program for adult literacy students, where English learners write to the author of a book they've read. And this year we read Cobble in Winter, and my student wrote to Ann Jones. And the result was she won the contest for the state of California, and so Glendale was well represented there, and it's because it's a local library. My student doesn't drive, and it takes several buses to get to the central library where most of the literacy tutoring goes on. But since I have to drive down from far north Glendale, I was going right past Casa Verdugo, so years ago we started meeting there, and these local libraries do facilitate a lot of learning. And I think lots of learning happened tonight, too. I'm glad Council Member Najarian realized that the residents of West Hollywood and Glendale have lots in common and that we share a lot of values. And lastly, by the way, I'd like to some remarks that I think Harry Zavos would have been a good member on the Water and Power Commission in the hopes that his obviously extensive legal knowledge could be tweaked a little bit so he works to find ways that Glendale can legally continue to fund excellent water service with the funding mechanisms that we have. So I think it was a brilliant idea to, put someone who's got a lot of complaints about how things are doing into a position where he can start doing things better that way. Anyway, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Manukian?
Yes, I would like to actually request from staff a report on the number of shut-off notices we sent to our community members by zip code and by month, and we can start from January, actually. January this year. And if we can have it by month, I know it's not a big report, just cranking out numbers from the billing report, the billing program that we have.
Yeah, that available. We'll make that available.
Have you received the report that they did yet?
No.
Because I don't know if the report was month by month, but they did do a pretty extensive report, which was given to us just before you came on council.
Okay.
And it also compared the shut-off rates with other cities. And I believe that we were the lowest of all the surrounding cities.
Okay.
So, but you should have that for sure.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I wanted to recommend that Margaret Hammond sell the van and buy a hybrid, or better yet, a plug-in, a new Nissan Leaf, so she doesn't burn all these hydrocarbons as she drives back and forth all day long.
Any other comments before we move on to new business?
I have new business. I move that the matter entitled Maradian versus City of Glendale Superior Court Case number EC 053705 be compromised and settled for the full and complete sum of $15,000, and the same is hereby approved and accepted. The Director of Administrative Services Finance is authorized to issue a warrant in said sum for delivery by the City Attorney upon the execution by the plaintiffs of a dismissal with prejudice.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Council members Manukian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Quintero?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Friedman?
Yes.
Can I ask a question from Mr. Starbird? We just received an email regarding the state budget issues. Are you prepared to make a statement on that so the community knows where we stand, or?
Well, I'll just pass on what I've been told by the
Because
lobbyists.
I think it's an important matter.
I'll pass on what I've read from the lobbyist for the Independent Cities Association, a gentleman named Tony Rice, and it's been somewhat confirmed by emails today from the executive director of the California Redevelopment Association. What that report indicated was that the Democratic Party in Sacramento, and I believe both Assembly and Senate, because of the logjam of making any progress in the budget, have issued their proposed budget, which I understand will be taken up for a vote tomorrow. As I understand it, and again, this is rather cryptic email, so we haven't seen the legislation. There may be some errors here. But as I understand it, generally it would provide for the elimination of redevelopment, with a proviso that redevelopment agencies that opt into a program to commit funding to the state, I believe part of that in future years is schools, would be exempt from the elimination. And the opt-in part is they would need to commit funding that on a statewide basis would equate to $1.7 billion next year, and then $400 million each year thereafter. I didn't see anything about an extension of the life of project areas, which was part of the compromise legislation that the California Redevelopment Association had proposed. So that is what I know at this point, again from the cryptic emails. $1.7 billion was the takeaway from this year, which I believe for our agency was about $11 million. So if this plan were eventually passed by the Senate and the Assembly and signed by the governor, and if it passes legal muster, and you can anticipate a lawsuit following very quickly, I would imagine, But then the question would be whether or not a court would stay any actions, which would be questionable. I think it could mean upwards of $11 million from our redevelopment agency for the upcoming year. And then it provided for $400 million a year for each year thereafter. Now, the year in which the state took $350 million, it was about $2.5 million for us. So I'm figuring between $2.5 and $3 million a year for each year thereafter. I think from our standpoint, if indeed any of that is accurate, the difficulty is going to be that unlike the CRA compromise proposal, there is no extension of life for a project area. And as you know, our central project area, which is by far the largest income source redevelopment agency has here in Glendale, its life it will end in 2015. So if between now and 2015 you have to make an $11 million payment and a $2.5 million payment for each year thereafter, with no extension of life in order to try and recoup those losses, I don't know that we'd be able to make those payments. The staff's going to have to evaluate it. But my first reaction is I don't think we have the capacity, which would mean if you can't opt into the program, then conceivably you're eliminated. So a lot of work to be done yet. I know the CRA, California Redevelopment Association, indicated that the attorneys are studying it as we speak. This was referred to as a stealth bill because until literally just a few hours ago, nobody got a copy of it, even though it was rumored to be working its way through the Democratic Party, Assembly, and Senate. So that's as much as we know.
Thank you. It generally means killing the redevelopment agency if it passes, and it goes through the courts.
Yes, and again, we don't have any sense of what that is. The original bill by the governor to eliminate redevelopment would have eliminated it and then essentially given oversight to what they referred to as an oversight committee, which was principally county and county school representatives with very little representative by cities.
So much for transparency. This is done behind closed doors, in secret, without notification that it's being done. And from what I read from the email, the rest of the budget relied on one-time fixes rather than sustainable issues that would deal with the budget for years to come. They're, once again, will work for this year, but next year the money's gone and you have the same issue going again. But what's particularly disturbing to me is the continual attempt to balance the state budget to deal with their problems by reaching into the pockets of municipalities that are struggling. And as I said before, some of our redevelopment money, a lot of it goes to local business assistance and local business incentives. This is the only money we have for economic development and business assistance in the city.
Well, we'll learn more detail tomorrow and the following day. We'll apprise you as we do.
And we will keep the public up to date as well. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn in memory of William Plumlee.
Second.
We are adjourned.